through something dry long so love that girl but she don't know I'm somewhere down that road to Ixtland. God don't cry, wind don't blow, rain don't fall, then dry long so love that girl but she don't know I'm somewhere down that road to Ixtland.
Okay, welcome to Open Culture. We've got a great guest, Tom Pandaleon, tonight, and we're going to be talking about how we use social media, Skype, and other interactive features in today's modern world. Hey, Tom, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's a little rain here in New York, but other than that, you know, I'm above ground, so I'm all is well.
We got sun in Chicago today.
Really? I was
A lot of mud.
Didn't you have a lot of snow the other day?
Yeah, well, that's why I said now we have a lot of mud.
Because the singer from the Starship lives there, and she was saying like how one of her shows got canceled.
Yeah, that makes sense. Probably on a Tuesday.
So Tom, you're a guitar teacher. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well,
Like, first of all, how did you get into it? And maybe a little of a background, like you
yeah, I went to school with you.
I don't know if you want to admit that.
Yeah, well, I see the two paths go, their own way. But yeah, I started playing guitar in I think it was fourth grade, and by sixth grade I went up to electric guitar.
Those were the famous Andy Panda, right?
Huh?
That was the famous Andy Panda days, right?
That's right. With Andy Gilchrist, we started actually on the same day. His mother actually picked up our guitars for us, so we went downstairs to his basement and cranked out a bunch of really, really bad, no chord, no tuning, just as loud as we could get the guitars. That was sort of how we started. Andy's brother's first review of us was to throw an old boot into the basement with us, and that was our first review. But it got better from there.
Yeah, I would hope so.
So I played guitar through high school. Played with you in a couple of bands. The first Nirvana, long before Kurt Cobain took the name.
Imagine that, right?
Yeah, we were the original Nirvana.
Because I had the first presidential election stolen from me.
That's true. Yeah. There's a lot of
We
firsts.
were always having a lot of firsts.
That's us.
We were even kind of blogging before anyone did it.
That's true too.
Like with songs like Melinda and stuff like that.
Yeah. We and what was it? Segregation.
George just wrote on my wall the other day all the lyrics to Armageddon.
Yeah, we still remember those lyrics. I forget all those lyrics, so we gotta. I have to talk to George, get those lyrics back. So anyway, played guitar through high school, went to college, majored in music, graduated with a degree in music from Bard College in upstate New York. And right after I graduated, they told me I could be considered adjunct faculty, which meant that I could give lessons to students that were going to Bard, and they would get 2 credits a semester from the college for taking lessons and working on music and studying and all the other things that go with it. So that's sort of how I started teaching. I started teaching in New York locally as well as through the college. And then eventually moved out to Chicago and started teaching locally to some of the people around where I lived and to my nephew and some of his friends. And I came up with an idea to pay my students a commission for finding me new students.
Nice.
One of my students found me 7 students, and one of the 7 he found me another 7. And before I knew it, I had 30 students, and I was doing it full time, which I did up until when I broke my wrist about 10 years ago. But I ended up moving to Des Plaines and started teaching in the dance building, where I've been for 10 years now. Today I'm in my office in my house, which is in Mount Prospect, and I do lessons here a few days a week as well now. So I do lessons in both places. Using all the all the advertising I can think of.
So what are some of the things that you've learned about teaching? Now you've been doing it for a while. So what are some of the things that you picked up that you didn't know necessarily when you started?
There's all sorts of little things. Mostly it's just repetition. There's no replacing practicing and repeating and getting familiar with stuff. You can cram for 2 hours the day before the lesson, but 15 minutes a day will go a lot longer than that because you start to build up momentum, you build up familiarity. Your fingers learn things pretty quickly if you let them. A lot of it's how you approach it and just to keep at it.
How
don't
do you
get to
assess a student's
stuff.
needs and stuff too? Isn't like being like a guitar teacher is almost like being like a part-time shrink?
Definitely. I've had a lot of that. One of my students he's on a break, but he said that he misses the counseling sessions. So,
Because I know when we had like similar, we had a guitar teacher. Like sometimes I go to Sickberg, I wouldn't even take the lesson. I just tell him about my problems in school. You know.
yeah, I didn't do that with Sickberg, but he was awesome. That's something that I learned a lot from Steve. Definitely tried to model how I do things with him, or how he did things. He always asked me, "What are you listening to? What do you want to play?" I ask my students the same thing. I might say, "What's on your iPod?" or whatever. What are you listening to? Same question 30 years later. Try to get them playing things they are familiar with. Um, some of the younger boys, especially, are a little hesitant to play some of the simple early tunes that they kind of have to play before they can play the Ozzy and the other stuff they want to do. So it's partly, it's like you said, psychiatry. Got to convince them that they've got to be able to play a really good version of Ode to Joy before they're going to be able to play Crazy Train. If they can't do the easy stuff because they think it's too stupid, too immature, play the crap out of it, and then we'll move on to something harder. Until you can do the easy stuff, I don't want to talk about the hard stuff, because then we get what I call top heavy, which means we're doing things we're not really ready for, and we're forsaking our foundation. So I got to give and take a little bit. I push them towards the things that are give them some things that they can get some quick gratification on, kind of going back and forth between the two. There's always new stuff. I found a few years ago, about let's say four years ago or so, Guitar Hero was very popular. So a lot of kids were playing Guitar Hero and learning these old classic rock songs, and suddenly they said, "Oh, maybe I want to play the real guitar." So I got a lot of young guys from that angle, and then a lot of the girls were listening to Taylor Swift, who was at the time I think 17 years old, wrote her own songs, had hit album, played and sang
I know
guitar.
she's like an old lady now at 22.
Yeah, she's 22. She's a vet, But a lot of that stuff was really good for business. Got a lot of girls playing guitar that hadn't before that, and still somewhat, not quite like it was when she first hit the scene, because she's older now and she's doing more rock and roll stuff. But those two things were good for business, definitely. And there's just always seems to be waves of, I get waves of kids, and then I get waves of adults, and I get waves of kids and waves of adults. It's strange how I've got to work all the angles.
You were saying how you just got an 80-year-old student. What's that like?
An 80-year-old student, he's been great.
And what does he want to learn?
I did enlarge the print so he could see it a little bit easier. And we do the same sort of thing. We talk about stuff, and then we work on the music. And then we kind of talk about stuff and work on the music, and he does an hour lesson. He's been coming for about a month, and it's really starting to click in for him. Part of what we had to do with him was get him comfortable. He's an older guy. He's got a belly, so we had to figure out how does he get the guitar stable so it's not moving, so he can get his fingers doing what they're supposed to do and not holding onto the guitar. And so I went over to his house for one lesson to try to help him set his practice area up, and we got him a foot thing for his right foot, and it all sort of came together after that. But yeah, everybody's different. I had a 75-year-old guy take lessons with me a few years ago. He had been a jazz guitar player, who had sort of stopped playing the guitar and was playing bass in a little trio that would go to the different rest homes in the area and play music for these people. And he called me up and he said, "I'm playing bass in this band," he says, "but I think I'm a better guitar player than the guitar player is. I just haven't played the guitar in 30 years."
Yeah.
So I put him through the paces, dexterity exercises, playing simple tunes, working our way up to chords, and strumming, and then he was off on his jazz rant, and so once we got to some fairly complicated jazz stuff, that really wasn't my forte anymore. And so I said, "Chester, you should probably find a jazz guy if you're going to want to keep doing the jazz stuff." But I think he was pretty happy with what we did. We worked together for about 3-4 months, and he was pretty happening by the time he was done. Playing jazz chords I couldn't play.
Send him to Bury.
Yeah,
As
and
well.
then I've had 5-year-olds who come in, and part of what I try to do with them is, part of it I do try to get them playing in the first lesson, playing something really simple like that old Snake Charmer, the one that goes. Then we work up to when the Saints go marching in. And try to get them some couple of things right off the bat. First lesson, I want them playing a couple of things where they can go to their friends and say, check this out, I can play something. Show their parents. Hopefully something that doesn't make them feel embarrassed. Like Mary Had a Little Lamb. I figure most boys aren't going to want to play that, but they'll play other stuff, so gotta have I've got a book full of material of different songs that we can draw from. We start adding new strings and more fingers and tempos and things. And
when do you start using tab with students?
I use tab first day, first lesson.
Yeah.
I teach them how to read tab and teach them how to play the snake charmer at the same time. Try to get them using at least 2 fingers.
Now let's talk about like how we've had discussions how it's important to actually have a real live guitar teacher as opposed to just going on YouTube and trying to learn this stuff. Because hasn't that been
YouTube
like?
YouTube is great for me, but there's no feedback. So if you're not doing it right, there's no one to tell you how to do it. You might see Marty Schwartz play a D chord, and you can't get a D chord to sound good. How come? Well, he's not going to be able to help you with that. He can't hear you. So I think about myself sometimes as almost like a physical trainer. For some people, let's say I get a student who's been playing for 20 years but wants to learn some new stuff. I'm not going to teach him how to do a sit-up, but I may teach him how to do a sit-up better. I may get him onto a regular routine of doing sit-ups. It's the same kind of thing. The continuity is important. Branching out into things that, well, I get calls from, I started playing guitar in college. I've been playing the same 20 songs for the last 30 years. I want to learn something new. I want to learn how to finger pick. I want to learn some new songs. Some people just come in and they need to be refreshed and get their dexterity happening again and then learn some new songs. So it really varies from person to person. What was the question?
The more important, what was the answer? No, I was talking about how some people are trying to skip going to like a real live guitar teacher and just trying to like learn from YouTube and stuff. And
right. Okay. Yeah.
we'd had that discussion how before how I was saying it's not quite the same thing. I know, for instance, for me, I like to practice yoga, and it's important for me to go to actual classes because even though I have the basic move down, I'm always leaving something out, and the teacher's saying, well, you're just leaving that little thing out,
Exactly, yeah. A lot of that, well, that's the feedback I'm talking about. The things that you don't even realize you're not doing are the things that a teacher is going to catch. Some people will try to play a chord and strum it the first time they get it, and they might be missing a couple of notes and not even realize it. So how do we get all the notes to come out clean? Well, first of all, we got to find them. The notes that aren't coming out clean, we got to adjust our hand and our wrist. I think the wrist is a big part of that. But I think with the video, I've had students come to me and they say, well, I got this DVD with the guitar, and I tried to learn off that, and I just got frustrated. And then I went online, and people said, oh, you can learn stuff online, but the same problem happens. A lot of people don't even know how to tune their guitar when they start out. So trying to play...
It took me 3 years before I could tune a guitar.
Huh?
It took me 3 years before I had the ear.
Right. Or even just how to use a tuner. But, there's all sorts of little things that come into play that a video lesson is great for someone who's pretty advanced. Might be okay for someone who picks things up pretty quickly. But for most people, it's going to leave just sort of you guessing whether you've gotten it or not. People try to take shortcuts. There's apps on your telephone for this, that, and the other thing.
Apps on the iPad.
One of the things I do that I think is important in terms of building things up is I'll start them off on one string, and then we'll add another string, and we'll start building things up. We'll start adding the second finger and the third finger doing things by themselves.
Now, when you say start off on a string, or what do you mean? Maybe you could show us a little bit
Well, the skinny strings are down on the bottom, and they're a little bit easier to push down, a little easier to reach, especially if you have a small hand. So we might start with, like I said, the snake charmer's all on one string, so that's usually where we start them. Or something along those lines. And then we'll add the second string. We'll do When the Saints Go Marching In, or Ode to Joy, songs like that. Eventually we get into something like Love Me Tender, which has a, little thing where we're doing a second, third finger working stuff. So we start adding fingers and strings. We try to get ourselves up. Then I'll start giving them some things on the bass strings. And eventually, the other thing I'm trying to do from the very beginning is get them to use their fingertips. When we play a chord, we need to use our fingertips. If we come in flat, the flat part of our finger. First of all, it's a very squishy part of the finger. It takes a lot of effort to get a note out of it. Second of all, when you're playing chords, if you don't use your fingertip, you're going to hit strings that you don't want to hit, and you're going to mute things out. So part of the idea is to get people using their fingertips and get their wrist used to coming in straight, with their fingers coming in straight versus flat. And I have a theory, which is people look at musicians on TV or in concert, and they see some guy doing some flashy solo.
Yeah.
It looks really hard. And you see the other guy chugging along on some chords, and that looks really easy. So people say, oh, well, why don't we start with chords? It's like, you try it, you know. Try getting three fingers to work together when you haven't even got one to work yet. So part of what I do is I do try to reel them in a little bit, try to build them up steadily without getting them top heavy. And by top heavy, I mean, you know, like an upside down pyramid. You're doing things, and that's another problem with the video lessons, I think, is that people go for songs that may be a little too advanced for them and end up not learning the basics of how this stuff's all put together. So they end up having to learn each song separately rather than realizing that it's all kind of built in together. So part of my, you know, I also use the analogy of being like a fishing guide. And I'm not teaching you how to fish, but I may take you to a new fishing hole where there's a new batch of fish and a new barrel of fun to be had.
So creating more opportunity.
Yeah, or just something new. Something maybe you wouldn't have found on your own or wouldn't have done on your own that'll help you then do the next song. So it's all a progress of building up.
Now, on the flip side, though, you're starting to embrace using YouTube videos. And why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your guitar site, and then we can talk about maybe how you're going to start embracing Skype to reach students too as well.
Yeah, definitely want to use all the media out there.
Well, where's your website? It's guitartom.net and guitartom.org.
That's right. Yeah, I guess we don't do the W's anymore, huh? So guitartom.net. If you go to guitartom.org, it'll send you to guitartom.net. So all roads lead to the same place. But I've been using that as as a way to sort of as a brochure. Since I don't have a school or a school or a store, I'm basically on my own. It gives people the ability to kind of check me out without having to put themselves on the spot, I guess. I've been doing, well, for years, if a student wasn't quite understanding how to play a song, couldn't get the notes to sound right, couldn't remember how we did it when we played it in the lesson, I would record an MP3 and I would send a video attachment of myself playing it. But it occurred to me last summer that we could videotape it so where they could see it and hear it. I could put it up on YouTube, and that way other students could use it as well. And we've attached that to the website. So those would be, in conjunction with something they've already done with me. I do try to preview what they're going to practice before they go practice it. So we've kind of gone over it together to have an idea of how to approach it.
Have they liked it? Has it been working for them?
Yeah, it's been really helpful. And I think they also like having, a video that's kind of up there because they requested it.
Nice.
So there's a little personal thing there. In terms of Skype, I've got a student who's going to move to Las Vegas in a couple of months, and he wants to continue with me as a teacher, so we're going to do some Skype lessons. And I think that should go fine. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. I'll have to send him emails rather than hand him a piece of paper. And but we have, we can scan things. We can pull things off the net. We can scan things that I've written and email it, and it's there in 5 seconds. And
how does it affect the chemistry? Like when you're not in the actual same room, it doesn't make a difference because you're still basically hearing each other.
Well, I won't be able to reach over and say, "Move that finger." There are things that will be lost. But he enjoys his lessons. He says Thursday is his happy day. He says he loves to know that he's going to come in Thursday and he's going to walk out playing better and have something new to play. He says that's sort of the highlight for his week is that feeling he gets when he walks out the door. And that's another thing with the YouTube videos and just practicing in general, having a teacher that kind of keeps you in check. If you go every week, you may find that you're playing better because the teacher is helping you with the details and, like you said, the things you might be leaving out. That you might not get if you skipped a lesson because you didn't practice. Andy Gilchrist is a good friend of both of ours, Bob and Ryan, and he teaches in the city. And he and I have had lots of conversations about adults with busy schedules, or even kids with busy
Yeah,
schedules.
these days, right? They're gonna make a
It's
date
crazy.
for a play date.
They've got to do. And so they might say, "Oh, I didn't practice last week, so let's skip this week's lesson." It's like, okay, well, now you're probably not going to practice for 2 weeks, and you're also not going to get that one day with me where I'm working you out and putting you through the paces. The guy I had before this lesson, before the video shoot, lesson I had before the video shoot today, um, he's been busy. He's getting ready to go to California, and he hasn't practiced much. So I had him work through each song. We did them about 4 or 5 times each. I had to do some dexterity exercises. And you could really just see each time through he got better. And so, the old drill sergeant or the old physical trainer says, okay, give me 10 more. And then when they get to the 10th one, they say, okay, another 10.
Yeah.
I'm like, one more time. Let's do it one more time. Once you get it right, let's do it a few times in a row. Let's let the fingers remember the perfect version, not the screwed up versions that came before the perfect version. Without being mean about it. It's supposed to be encouraging. I want them relaxed. I tell them to breathe. One of the things I do a lot, and as a yoga guy you would understand, is I say, okay, take a deep breath, exhale slowly, relax, let's take it again. I find that people concentrating, especially with me watching them, tend to not breathe.
Yeah, right.
And so when they don't breathe, their brain doesn't get oxygen, their muscles don't get oxygen, and they tense up and they tend to make mistakes. So some of it's also just, okay, take a step back, let's start over. Well, let's bag that song. I've had a student call me once and say, that song you gave me made me want to quit. And so I said, well, let's bring it in on Tuesday. So he brought it in on Tuesday. I said, where's the song that made you want to quit? And he handed it to me, and I handed it back to him. I said, let's crumple it up and throw it in the garbage can. Let's do something else. And so there was the physical activity of, let's just put this song away. Let's do something else. Part of it's, recognizing something that's going to cause more frustration than progress, and maybe not pushing it. Sometimes it's good to go back to the beginning and say, okay, well.
Now, do you find like having a Facebook group about your business helps keep people connected too?
Facebook's been good. In fact, I did the Facebook before the website. The downside was that some people weren't on Facebook. Some people had an attitude about Facebook and said, I don't want to go on Facebook. I got Facebook, So at that point, I thought, okay, I probably need my own website. But the Facebook was actually one of the first things I did like that. Was I said, well, I just put up a page and get my students on there, get their pictures on there, get some continuity and some community, and let people see what I'm doing.
And also, don't you do like a lot of demonstrations down at that Guitar Center and stuff like that, and lets people know?
Yeah, I do the demonstrations. I do the Guitar Centers. I do a free lesson the first Sunday of every month. And some people come in not knowing how to play at all. Some people come in knowing how to play pretty well and want to learn something else. I come fully prepared for whatever, or if I need to write out, I have some material prepared. But if people are more advanced than that or need something more similar to, let's say, the first 2 pages, then it gets progressively harder through the book.
How long is that? For an hour, 2 hours when you do that?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Some people come for the full 2 hours. Some people come for a little while. You go.
Do you ever see like regulars coming back? Like
a kid, Sergio, I think he's been to 10 of them. He gets a free 2-hour lesson once a month. He's been doing it for close to a year now, so he's definitely taking advantage of it. Although at the beginning it worked better, and now he needs more advanced stuff and needs more one-on-one time, and it's hard to do that in a group format. So I do with the group. It's a group lesson, but I found from the very first one that there was one kid trying to pick the note with his fretting finger, and there was another kid who could play a bunch of songs pretty well. They were on completely different levels. I thought, well, I can't teach them all at the same speed. This kid's way advanced. That kid's never played before. And so now I do a bunch of mini lessons. I bounce from person to person. I get them working on some stuff. I say, you work on that, I'll go talk to this guy. I work on him on some stuff. And then I circle around and see who needs help.
So we're almost getting near the end. We got to wrap up soon. You want to do some like final thoughts, or maybe play a quick little song or something?
Have fun with it is the main thing. Do it steadily. Try to do 15 minutes a day. Like I said, is much better than 2 hours the day before the lesson. And even if you don't feel like it, pick it up and play it. it'll get better if you do, and it won't if you don't. How about a little Here Comes the Sun?
Right on.
There's a nice little riff there, huh?
That sounded great. So, Tom, thanks so much for coming on the Open Culture, and good luck with all the teaching.
Thank you, and I'd be happy to do it again sometime if you want to. Part 2.
Okay, peace out.
Thanks, Bob.
All right.
Drift down river, just get low. Heart through something dry, long so love that girl, but she don't know I'm somewhere down that road to Ixtlan.